What do you say, everybody? With Tony Sucos, I'm Mick Gillespie, and you're hanging out with us on a Wednesday night here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Yeah, we're Alabama's rival site. We keep track of everything Alabama, recruiting, football games, now basketball. Yeah, we're going to talk some basketball today. Alabama back in the top 10 and closing in on an SEC championship. And we're going to take your calls as well. So if you want to get in on the conversation, chat us up. Phone line is open at 205-850-0883. Questions for Tony or myself, and we'd love to hear from you guys as well. So we'll talk basketball, talk recruiting. Ty Simpson is a 5-star quarterback prospect. He's going to announce between Alabama and Clemson coming up. As you watch, do us a favor. Make sure you have a subscription, which is free, to the Bama Insider YouTube channel, and give us a thumbs up. All right. Well, what's up, Tony Sucos, the beat writer for BamaInsider.com. How you been, man?
Good to be on, Mick. I do one of these call-in shows, so I'm kind of excited about it.
Would you rather be the caller, or would you rather be the guy like what you're doing right now, the answering the caller?
I think answering the caller. I don't know. Whenever I've never really called into anything, so so I guess I'm better at being the answerer than the caller inner.
So you would be like, what is it? Long time listener, first time caller?
Yeah, did we ever have anybody say that? Because I would make sure to say that.
Yeah, that's kind of the that's one of those things that you say on those call-in shows. Like when
I wonder who was the first one to say that. That became such a phrase. Long time listener, first time caller. I wonder the first one to start that trend. But.
Right, or did it just happen so much that it caught on? Somebody said it, and then they echoed it, and then they echoed it after that. Well, look, the phone lines are open, guys, and we would love to hear from you. Again, 205-850-0883, whether you want to talk recruiting, football, or basketball, or baseball. Talk baseball. Alabama baseball, softball are in the top 20 or top 25. Women's basketball trying to make the tournament for the first time. Not that there's a whole lot of women's basketball fans, but I think there's a lot of pressure on that program that if they don't get to the tournament, that there should be some changes made. So hopefully they'll get there. 4 games to go, though. I think if they go 500 in the SEC, they get in. We debated this last show that we did together, Tony. Kind of just there's a double standard, I feel like, between men's and women's basketball as far as accountability to winning. And I think that accountability has led us to this guy right here, Nate Oates. And I got to tell you, this basketball program really is as good right now as I can ever remember it being.
Yeah. I mean, look, Alabama's going to clinch the SEC regular season title. It's just a matter of when. Obviously, that's going to be postponed a little bit because they had a game kind of wiped out this week, or at least pushed back this week. So that magic number still remains. I think it's 3. But, Alabama's going to, when you look at Alabama's schedule and for everything to fall into place, it certainly seems like they're going to win the regular season title. And then I think that, they'll have a serious run at the SEC tournament championship. And then, who knows if they can springboard into a deep run into the NCAA tournament as well. So it's an exciting time to be an Alabama basketball fan. Look, Nate Oates has this team. Not only is his team winning, it's an exciting brand of basketball. I think sometimes you get that. And a team can be winning, but it's a very boring brand of basketball. And look, fans want wins and they want success. But I think what, Nate Oates is doing is a lot more enjoyable than, when Virginia does well. And it's the boring style of defense. I like this brand of basketball. So on top of just being, successful, it's pretty fun to watch.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this reminds me of ACC style basketball in a good year. Basically like back in the day when it was like Maryland, Duke, North Carolina. Not this new Virginia, slow it down, but some of these, back in the heyday of the ACC, get up and down the court, try to play a little bit of defense, take the shot if it's there. If you got to post, do it. Alabama's problem to me really is rebounding. I mean, I think besides that, they really have kind of put together, and the other, I don't don't want to say it's a problem, but the other thing I worry about is not having a legitimate superstar. Not to take anything away from Herb Jones, but I just don't see him as a superstar. I see him as a good player, and maybe the best player on the best team. But, is he enough to kind of make a run in the tournament? Is he the guy that with 3 seconds left down a point or two, you want to take the shot, And it almost feels like to me, and I know that this isn't always the formula, but that you really like to have that guy when you're making a run, when you're in a close game and you need that big shot. I don't know that Alabama has that, but you feel like when Bruner gets back, the rebounding is going to improve.
I do. I think one of the things, too, if you're mentioning things that this team needs, our intern, Hunter Cruz, he kind of brought this up in an upcoming article, but they don't really have the point guard play has been a little inconsistent. I mean, ideally, you don't look. I mean, Herb Jones has done a great job on the ball this year, but that's not really what he does. I mean, he's done a great job of it, but I think you'd want, it's a long way off from maybe the Kyra Lewis, Colin Sexton point guards that Alabama's had in recent years. And so that's one thing too, that, if you're looking for maybe possible holes, I think you'd want Javon Quinterly to play a little bit more consistently at that point guard position to kind of provide some cover for Herb Jones. That's one thing that you've seen, maybe some turnovers here and there. You mentioned the rebounding. I think there's a lot of guys on this team that can rebound. So I think that does come back when Jordan Bruner comes back, and or at least it's helped out a lot. Jordan Bruner was not only just a rebounder, he's a great defensive player too. So when he's able to get back, when Herb Jones, I mean, look at the way Herb Jones has been playing. He's at 80%. When he's able to get back to 100%, I think you're going to see some of those rebounding numbers, kind of rise a little bit. And Alabama's done well at rebounding at times this year. It's just a matter of consistency there as well. So I think they've got all the pieces, to build a nice tournament run. And I know you've pointed out a few times they don't have that superstar, but the way that they spread the ball out, the way that they force people to defend the three and open up the offense that way, I think that you can make a run like that. And I think, you just might have different stars throughout the tournament, throughout that span. Somebody's going to get hot one day and another it's just all about finding that hot hand whenever you need to.
Why do you think Alabama's been so good in the conference and so mediocre outside of the conference? What are they, 12-1 in the SEC? Or is it 11-1? No, it's 12-1, right? Because they haven't won 12 games in the conference in forever. They've done that already with 4 games left. But outside of the conference, they're 5-4.
Yeah, I just think outside of that Oklahoma game, which they could have won, all the rest of those games were earlier in the season. And Alabama really turned the corner, around late December. And so I think if you were to play some of these out-of-conference games now, I think Alabama wins. They're a different team than they were when they were in the non-conference schedule. So a lot of it's just timing. Alabama played a hard non-conference schedule, so obviously that's going to be tough. But if you look at Alabama's record in quad 1 and quad 2 games, they're beating the good teams. They've played the difficult half of the SEC schedule already. So I don't think it's any red flag on whether or not Alabama can beat good teams or beat teams outside of the SEC. I think they can. I just think that this Alabama team that's playing right now is totally different than the one that was playing, at the beginning of the season.
He's Tony Tsoukalos. I'm Mick Gillespie. Great to have you guys with us tonight. Whether you're a big Alabama fan, you just love college football or sports, we appreciate you being here with us. This is the BamaInsider YouTube channel. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We're closing in on 50,000 subscribers, which really is phenomenal. And that's total credit to you guys. We appreciate you more than you know. And we're glad that you're with us on a Wednesday. And look, this is a Wednesday, for college sports in a time where we really don't have a lot to talk about. I mean, we're getting into basketball, but college football will start to heat up again when spring practice comes, right? Which is not too far away, Tony. We're going to get into that a little bit down the road. We got a huge quarterback that's going to commit to either Alabama or Clemson, a guy that I actually saw in person. I was at a tailgate with him at the Alabama and Tennessee game. Didn't have a chance to really talk to him. Didn't know who he was. I just happened to walk up to the person he was talking to, and I'll tell you that story later on in the show. But we're getting into Alabama basketball right now, and just the fact that this team is leading the SEC and in position to be able to hopefully win the SEC with that game that's coming up Thursday at 2:00, right? And I love the fact that they postponed the game and then it's at a Thursday at 2, because it gives us some very weird daytime television.
Yeah, well, that game has now been wiped out, so I don't know when that game is going to be postponed. Alabama wasn't able to travel to Texas.
Breaking news.
Yeah, that happened earlier this morning. They wiped out that game, and so Alabama is not going to be playing Texas A&M this week. So what that does, Mick, is it kind of eliminates a tricky little spot in Alabama's schedule, because look, they were going to have to go into Texas A&M, play that Tuesday game on Thursday, then travel back to Tuscaloosa that night, have a walkthrough on Friday, and then have to play Vanderbilt at noon. Now they can take it easy. They don't have to travel. They can rest up. You got guys like Herb Jones banged up, gets an extra little bit of rest. That should help a little bit. And you're fully prepared. You don't have to do that short turnaround for the Vanderbilt game. And I think it helps Alabama, because when you look at Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, those are the two bottom dwellers of the SEC standings right now. Those games don't really get you as much if you win them as much as they hurt you if you lose them. And so the last thing Alabama needs to do is to be not totally focused for a Vanderbilt, drop that game at home. That becomes a horrid loss. And it really tanks their resume. Now they don't have to worry about that short turnaround time. I think that, it probably is a blessing for Alabama. It's going to delay some of the what seems like an inevitable SEC regular season title. Alabama's going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. But I think in the end, it's not the worst thing that this game got pushed back.
Yeah, I mean, look, and then the whole thing is you don't want to travel in the bad weather. And I wasn't even thinking about that. And I didn't hear that they had canceled the game, or at least postponed it. But Texas right now under ice and snow, and there's more coming down. I talked to a friend of mine in Houston about an hour ago, and he was telling me that although at his house he hasn't had the rolling blackouts, but that there are rolling blackouts down there, and that that the weather's just terrible. People are not used to driving in the snow, kind of like us here in Alabama. So
yeah, my family's from 40 minutes north of Houston, so that's basically my hometown up there. And they lost power temporarily. It's back, but it got pretty cold one night. So they're doing all right. A couple of our neighbors back home, their pipes burst. So they're dealing with a lot down there. It's a lot. It's cold up here in Alabama, but it's not as bad as it is down there in Texas or in that Houston area.
So Alabama basketball off. Next game will be against arch rival Auburn, and that's going to be a tough one for them. Yeah, it will. I mean, like it's always tough to play, an SEC team, and I think it's just a matter of will they have their heads on straight, because it's been a complicated week, right? So there's a lot going on mentally that they're gonna have to kind of get resettled. I think they'll have a couple of days to do that. So I don't think they should be totally worried about that. Alabama basketball off. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk football. People always love to talk football. Alabama has had a bunch of different coaching changes here lately, right? And this guy, Nick Saban, always seems to be ahead of the curve when it comes to figuring out ways to overcome, coaches leaving. One guy that didn't leave, though, is Pete Golding. And I noticed that in the comment section, people were talking about Pete Golding. Quietly, at the beginning of the season, to kind of contrast, there was a lot of talk about maybe Pete Golding being fired, right? At the end of the season, we really didn't hear any of that. Matter of fact, it sounds like Alabama had to work really hard to keep him from going to Texas with Sarkisian.
Yeah, I mean, look, Pete Golding's a guy that I think got a bad rap or got too much of the blame. And he was dealing with a young defense, not this past season, but the season before that. And he, after a while, I mean, he got this defense, at least performing adequately enough to win a title, right? They're undefeated, and it's hard to be a defensive coordinator these days, especially with the expectation that Alabama has on defense. It's just defenses aren't necessarily like that. You're not going to have a defense that allows, 10 points a game or single digits a game. It's just not the way the game's played right now. So is there room for improvement? Sure. I think this year is a big test for him because I think Alabama's strength is its defense. So, you got guys coming back. I'm really high on Will Anderson Jr. I think, Christopher Allen. So those two guys as pass rushers they're going to be able to do a lot. You got a guy like Christian Harris coming into his third year, Josh Jobe going into his fourth year. So, there's a lot of strength on this Alabama defense. It should be able to improve even more. And I think Alabama will have to lean more on its defense because its offense is going to have to kind of break in some new stars. There's a lot of talent on the other side of the ball too, but I think when you look at this defense, it's kind of similar, Mick, to the 2016 team, the team that lost the last second to Clemson. I'm not saying that this defense is as good as that one, but there's a lot of similarities when you compare those two teams. Freshman running quarterback, Jalen Hurts, Bryce Young, veteran running backs, strong defense. So we'll see if those, how well that comparison goes out throughout the season. But that's one thing I've noticed is I've kind of just on paper, those two teams kind of look a little bit similar. And I think Alabama will rely on its defense a little bit more this coming season than it did, during last year's title run.
He's Tony Sucos. I'm Mick Gillespie. Great to have you with us here. As we talk a little bit of Alabama sports, Alabama football right now, 205-850-0883. Spring practice just around the corner. Tomorrow, it'll be Ty Simpson, five-star quarterback, announcing. I thought Tennessee had a shot at him, and then with the coaching change, obviously they're out. Tennessee seems to have just a Titanic of people jumping off and swimming to other programs, and it's going to be interesting to see how they rebuild. But it's between Alabama and Clemson for Ty Simpson. Do you think that Alabama, because of Bryce Young and Paul Tyson and Jalen Milrose are maybe it's not a good place if you're Ty Simpson to commit? I mean, he's got a year of football. Maybe you sit out a year. You never know what happens. If he's that good, he'll play, right? Or
I think when you play like these high-profile quarterbacks, you're never really worried about the competition. I mean, Ty Simpson's been the best quarterback he's been around his whole career. You know what I'm saying? So he's got confidence. Every one of these kids has confidence. Paul Tyson has confidence. Jalen Milroe has confidence. Bryce Young has confidence. They all think they're the guy. And so they're going to bet on themselves. And so I think that, it's going to be the same if he goes to Clemson. I mean, he's going to be battling a bunch of high-profile quarterbacks. These big-time programs, if you want to be a quarterback there, you're going to have to compete with other big-time quarterbacks because they usually take one a year. So, if you look at it from Ty's perspective, I don't think he's really battling Bryce Young because, like you said, Bryce is going to play this year while Ty's in college. Then, he would then have to be behind Bryce Young during his freshman year. But after that, I mean, if Bryce Young lives up to his five-star potential, I think he could be gone after two more seasons. So, I don't think he's really looking at that. And then if he's competing against, Jalen Milroe, who hasn't played it down yet, and Paul Tyson, who's been extremely limited, I don't think he's necessarily scared of those two. I mean, I think that they're all talented quarterbacks. Every person we've mentioned, they're talented quarterbacks, but I think, I don't think it's going to really influence Ty Simpson's decision of whether he wants to go to Alabama or Clemson. I think he's going to be pretty confident in his ability at either place.
Yeah, and Andrew Bone talked to Ty Simpson's dad, and that's an interview that you can watch. We posted it right here on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. So here's my story. I was at the Alabama-Tennessee game, and one of my former assistants is now a radio broadcaster in, I want to say Nebraska, Nashville. I don't know why that got stuck in my head there. But
totally different places.
Yeah, two totally different places, Nebraska and Nashville. Anyway, he said, hey, do you want to meet Clay Travis, who's, kind of been around broadcasting for a long time? I said, yeah, I'd love to, and they know each other. And so long story short, I have listened to Clay Travis's show, thought it would be cool to meet him. these guys are like, hey, meet him, go up, walk up to him. And the guy just totally like is talking to somebody, looks at me, says, hey, shakes my hand, and then basically turns his back on me. And I'm like, I mean, I was shocked, right? I thought, well, I'm not going to say
jerk,
that,
right?
but I was kind of surprised by that. And, but I hung at the tailgate, talked to some of the other friends I have in broadcasting there, guys from Nashville. And long story short, it just kind of I turn around and then there's Clay next to me now. We've kind of like been funneled in the crowd towards the same spot. And he looks at me and he's like, hey, I'm sorry. I want to apologize. I wasn't trying to be rude. He goes, but that was Ty Simpson, 5-star recruit. And, I think he was trying to recruit that guy to go to Tennessee. And so I didn't know.
It doesn't sound like it worked because it looks like he's going to go to either Alabama or Clemson. So all that for nothing, man. I guess good try, Clay. But
yeah, funny, though. He's a big kid, though.
Yeah, and he's from Tennessee, so I think his dad not. I'm not totally into the recruiting, but isn't his dad the head coach of UT Martin?
Yeah,
I believe that's
sure is.
Yeah, so there you go. So I wonder if Dad made a slight recruiting pitch. Wouldn't that be something? But
I guess they were fans of Clay's show, so that's kind of why they thought it was cool to get a chance to meet him. And, and you get that like that, that totally made sense to me. I just couldn't believe that I was standing there and I've never been blown off worse. But in the world of recruiting, I mean, when you got an opportunity to make an impression, right, you got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Clay Travis he's a UT grad, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, look, he's probably trying to support the program there,
Who's someone that you were interested in meeting and you met them and things didn't turn out the way that you thought that they were going to turn out?
Man, I don't know. I was interested in meeting Paul Feinbaum one time. I got to meet him as a student journalist, but he was really nice. You know what I'm saying? He was really helpful. He gave me a little interview for the student paper once, and he's a nice guy. There's been a couple people. I haven't really. There's not one that stands out that was like, man, that was awkward, or that was not what I wanted it to be. I'm sure there was one. It's not coming to me right now. But I don't know. I found a lot of times, and look, even with your story with Clay, I don't think he wasn't trying to be a bad guy. I think most of the time, when you're in the same profession, you get it, and so you want to be nice to everyone. So
no doubt about it. Well, another big news to talk about has nothing to do with Alabama, but it has to do with this guy right here, former Auburn coach Gus Malzahn. I'm really shocked that Tennessee didn't go hire this guy. 205-850-0883 as we do take your calls tonight if you want to get in on the show. I'm Mick Gillespie with Tony Sucalls, Bama Insider and BamaInsider.com. Tony's the beat writer, and I'm your host. We appreciate you guys. Thumbs up, subscribe as you hang out with us tonight. Gus Malzahn went to UCF. So he replaced the guy that went to Tennessee. And I just thought, what a hire. It was a really fun press conference. The night mascot knighted Gus. And in a lot of ways, that job is probably going to be easier to have success at than Tennessee. So I don't know what the interest level was one way or the other, but I think Gus is a pretty good football coach.
What do you think about the knighting thing? I thought that was so corny, Mick. I saw that and I was like, ugh, cringe. But do you like that? I don't know. I saw that. I was like, man, this is this guy's a serious football coach, and you're having this cartoon character hit him with a foam sword.
Yeah, we got the sword, and what's funny to me is I liked it, but I didn't think that was as awkward as every coach that goes to Arkansas and they have to do the whoop suey.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've got, so my wife's side of the family is big Arkansas fan, so I guess I've normalized pig suey as weird as it is. So not I guess that's just a little bit more normal just because I guess I've heard it more. So yeah.
But look, I mean, like, I think that this is a really good hire. I mean, I know that the consistency of competing with Alabama year in and year out for national championships wasn't there for Gus. And I know Auburn fans, a lot of them did not like him, but he beat Alabama, and they always seemed to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, look, well, UCF won a national championship by beating Auburn, right?
If you want to call that a national champion.
No, I'm just joking. But no, seriously, I think, all jokes aside, it's not a bad situation for him to land out. You're in a place where you can recruit in a state like Florida. Like you said, the expectations are going to be low. Let's see what he's able to do. We've seen Gus succeed at programs that are kind of like on the outside, like, Arkansas State, a program that, kind of where there's less pressure. And look, he did a decent job at Auburn. I mean, he didn't perform to the level that they wanted to, but he wasn't by any means horrid there. I mean, he gave Nick Saban fits, every other year, it seemed like. So he's a guy that he's a serious coach. It's not only it's not only a great spot for him to land. It's a great hire for UCF, because I mean, that's a big high profile name for a school that, I think they kind of punched above their weight right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think they upgraded. They lost their coach to Tennessee, and I think clearly upgraded. Now, I don't know what Gus Malzahn's long-term commitment to the program would be, but Scott Frost, I mean, let's be honest here. Scott Frost built that program and then went on to Nebraska. And since he's left, it's been in slow decline, right?
Right.
Now, now Gus is coming in, and I feel like that he's been a pretty decent recruiter. Not this year, obviously, but in the past. I mean, he's competed with Alabama for the top prospects in the state, and until this year, I think it was since he had gotten there. It was pretty close. I think Alabama had 5 more over the course of those years, but that's not a whole lot. I mean, look at what's going to happen now. Basically, I think Alabama is going to get every single player they want, and the ones that they don't want, they just don't want. I think Auburn's going to have a hard time recruiting. I just think. I mean, we'll find out. And Gus going down there, maybe it's just a stop until he bounces into another big job, but maybe it's not.
Yeah. I mean, look, he doesn't have to, like you said, with the recruiting, he doesn't have to compete with the machine of Alabama and Nick Saban every year. I mean, he's got to obviously, compete with a lot of quality Florida schools, but I think they're even punching after. You don't need the same caliber athletes across the board at Central Florida to succeed than you do at Auburn. You know what I'm saying? Like, your schedule is going to be a little bit easier. And so I'm interested to see what he can do. I think he's going to do well. I don't know if that will turn into another SEC job later on down the road. UCF's one of those weird schools where it's like, it can be a big, they can do things. They can be that kind of that school where you can actually, get to decent bowl games with. But it's definitely not a blue blood or, necessarily a coaching destination. So this might be a stepping board for Gus, or he might just decide, hey, I really like Orlando. I mean, Orlando's not a bad place to live. So, maybe he gets really into that and builds a program there and builds it back to what Scott Frost had it at.
Do you think that it's that Tennessee missed an opportunity, or do you think they got the right guy for their job?
Tennessee's a mess. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Would Gus have wanted to go there? I don't know. I think, for Tennessee right now, it's just, I don't love that coaching move, but who else were they going to get? I don't know. So it's not a fun time to be a Tennessee Vol fan right now. I would imagine. I imagine your buddy Clay's not too happy with the program either. So I personally think that, like you said, I feel that UCF, they upgraded, so they got a better coach than Tennessee, which, That's not a bad move when you can be Central Florida and end up with a better coaching hire than Tennessee. I think you did pretty well. So whether or not Tennessee made a mistake, I think they ended up with the lesser of those two coaches when you're comparing them side by side.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. I mean, Josh Heupel, was he kind of reminds me of Butch Jones, to be honest with you. I mean, when you talk about the stepping up to the next job type guy, I mean, he was there. Scott Frost left. He took over. Just like Butch Jones followed Brian Kelly to a couple stops and was in Cincinnati. Got hired by what was it? Notre Dame, right? And then Butch got hired by Tennessee, and it just didn't work out. And it kind of feels like the same thing, like with Heupel. Like it's like he kind of was there. Frost goes to Nebraska, he steps in, and it's like okay, now he's at Tennessee. Now,
yeah, like you said, it regressed. Kudos to him for landing an SEC job. What did he really do that was so special at UCF? And he was able to go to an SEC program, a traditional SEC program at that. Now, is it in a great condition? No. Do a lot of coaches want to go to Tennessee? No. But I mean, that's a school with some history, and maybe he can turn around. Look, there's, you never necessarily know how a coach is going to be until you see him. If he's able to get some momentum, maybe he lands a decent recruit that he can build across, or maybe he just has a surprising year. I mean, look, the way Tennessee's going, it's one of these things. If you give them a little bit of momentum, it's like they're at rock bottom, so it can only go up. So I'm not ready to write him off. It doesn't look like a very optimistic look at that program.
No doubt about it. And Clay, definitely not my friend, just someone that I ran into.
Yeah, I was just kind of tying it back. One thing I want to bring up though, none of us thought that Sam Pittman was going to be the coach he was going to be at Arkansas. That looked like a boring hire, especially when you saw Lane Kiffin go to Ole Miss and Mike Leach go to Mississippi State, and Sam Pittman did a hell of a job with Arkansas. So it might be a case of that, where you doubt the coach at first, and if he's able to come in, have some momentum, you might be at this time next year saying like, maybe Heupel's not that bad of a coach. I don't see it, but who knows,
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, it's going to play out. I mean, look, out on the field, because you're not going to be able to hide from what's going on. And it might be a good job for Heupel, because I don't think Tennessee can fire another coach. I mean, like they're just going to have to ride with this guy for a while and let it play out. So as I see guys transfer, which one guy that we're wondering about is Henry Toto, is the linebacker who wants to transfer to Alabama. If the rules allow him to do it, then, he's one of the best run stopping linebackers out there. The pass grade, hey, look, but in this day and age, if you get one guy like that can really slow down the run, it opens up a lot of your other players against the pass to do things.
Yeah, and that guy is going to give my spell check for stories a run for its money with his last name. I know I'm one to complain about a last name, but that's a tough one. So if he does come to Alabama, but I think he's a talented guy. Alabama's, like we were talking about it, they've got a lot of strength on defense. I mean, he's going to have to work to come in and start at Alabama. I think, I saw a lot from Jalen Moody that I like, and obviously Christian Harris is there, and he's a certified starter as well. So I think, Henry Tuatoa is a guy that's a talented guy that Alabama would certainly take, but I think he's going to have to come in and earn his spot too whenever he comes in. I don't think he just walks into a starting role at Alabama.
Right. You guys want to ask a question, change the topic, get involved, 205-850-0883. Tony Sukalis and me, Mick Gillespie, on a Wednesday night, talking Alabama football right now, SEC football as well.
Yeah, seriously, ask a question, guys. My feelings are getting a little bit hurt, Mick, and no one's calling in.
Ready to get it cranked up, huh? I think you bring up a good point with Toto is, look, he's going to have to come in and earn a spot. But at the same time, for him, just the energy he's going to have to know that the type of player that's around him, his job's going to be a lot easier playing for Alabama, I would think, just because of how many good players are there.
Sure. And I mean, like, just that mentality of being on a winner, I think that's he hasn't had a lot of, win-loss success at Tennessee. So that chance to kind of, play for an organization that has a chance at a title, I think that just kind of helps motivate you even more. I think when you get around that environment, I think that's why people come to Alabama, right? Is to be pushed by players, and then also that pursuit of being a champion. I think that's what Alabama sells itself on. So the competition that he'll have to compete with in Alabama is only going to make him better, and so is you know the competition on the field, just competing for titles instead of competing for whatever 6-4 seasons or 5-5 seasons, or you know what I'm saying. I think he's going to have a lot more to play for at Alabama.
Can you think of any
There you
other?
go.
Oh, sorry. Can you think of any other players who have transferred in like this to Alabama? I mean, because I feel like Toto is a guy who, who comes in with a really kind of big known resume.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of Alabama's had some JUCO players. They don't typically get the. I'm sure I'm missing one right now, but actually, they don't usually get transfers from other schools. It's mostly just a JUCO thing. So, if you're in the comments section, I mean, I'm totally spacing on someone. I mean, I know Savion Smith kind of transferred from LSU, but he spent a year in Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank on. I feel like there is one. It's not coming to me.
Well, let me get to these calls. I don't know why I didn't see them before, but they're up there now, and we'll go to the phone lines. Appreciate you calling in. Who's this, and where you calling from?
Hunter from Alabama.
Hunter, thanks for hanging on with us, man. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Hunter?
About what y'all were talking about, Henry Toto. I think that if he can transfer, I think that'll be a big pickup for us.
Yeah, I think it will add to the depth of the defense, definitely. And look, he could possibly be a starter. He was a starter at Tennessee as their leading tackle there. But I don't think you just have to, give him the starting job right away. I mean, I think, like I said, Jalen Moody's a guy that has shown some promise. Shane Lee's a guy that I think, also, has a lot of potential at that position. And then, obviously I don't think Christian Harris is going to lose his spot. So it's not just a given. I think, you get excited about the new guy, but you can't forget about the guys that are already on the roster who are going to be competing with the team this spring. I'm expecting some of those guys to make some big strides. So I think, if you look at Henry To'oTo'o, yeah, he's got the talent to do it, and he's got the talent to really contribute for Alabama, but he's going to have to earn it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, nothing's given in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, especially with the way this defense is shaping up, I think that everyone's going to have to earn their spot. It's a solid unit.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think is the reasonable expectations going into this season? Because we lose a lot of pieces, but we recruit very well, and we apparently got a very talented quarterback, group. I mean, do you see? I mean, I always expect a national championship, but I try to be realistic going into the season, in my expectations. What do you think is the reasonable expectation for this team? Do you think we're going to be good enough to make it to the SEC championship this year?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think, look, the way Alabama's rolling, that's definitely that should be the expectation every year. Now, whether or not they'll do it, I mean, history says that they won't, right? Because the last team to repeat as champions was Alabama in 2011 and 2012, if I'm right. So, it's just tough to do. It's tough to go undefeated twice. And so, Alabama's probably going to drop a game this season, and it depends on when that is, that's just, speaking on trends and in history. I think, when you look at the offense,
I'm sorry. You cut out there for about a minute.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the trend should always be, or the expectation at Tuscaloosa should always be SEC title or SEC, contend for the SEC title. I think with the way Alabama recruits, I think that's what you have to do. But it's going to be tough. It's tough to do it 2 years in a row. It's tough to win a title, SEC title 2 years in a row, and it's also tough to win a national title 2 years in a row. So the expectation should be that they do it. Whether they do or not, that's a different story. But I think from an Alabama perspective, as the fans, I think all of y'all should be expecting it because they've got the team capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think so too. But I just always like to be kind of reasonable going into the season and try to, take everything into perspective, and kind of figure out, okay, we're going to expect the national championship, we're going to expect the SEC championship, but what are some goals and some real expectations that we can have. It's been some years where everybody thought Alabama was the favorite to win the national championship and hasn't, and so it varies year to year, but we're always going to be that top dog. I think. I just think that Paul Tyson has a better chance than a lot of people are giving him. I mean, I think it's Bryce's to lose, but I think Paul Tyson's, talented enough to maybe make a push for a starting job.
He's talented. I think if he had a better chance, I think we would have seen him a little bit more last year. I think we didn't see him at all last year. We only saw Bryce a little bit, but I think that's very telling of how Alabama sees that position. I think Paul Tyson will have a chance to compete with Bryce Young in the spring, but I think you look at Bryce Young and he enters the spring as the quarterback at Alabama. I don't think that position is necessarily up for grabs in terms of they're both dead equal. I think it's Bryce's job to lose, and it's the same case as what I had last year with Mac Jones. Is Paul Tyson capable of being the quarterback? Sure, but I don't see Bryce Young slipping up this spring and giving him that opportunity necessarily because I just have that much confidence in Bryce Young, and that's nothing to do with Paul Tyson. I just think looking at the way last season played out, and the hype around Bryce Young and obviously the way that Nick Saban views Bryce Young, I think it's his position to lose, and it's going to be really tough for that guy to lose it. I do think Alabama's in a good position though with Paul Tyson. If Bryce Young does sputter, if he's unable to live up to those expectations, I think Paul Tyson's more than capable of taking on that role. So, yeah, as much as I believe in Paul Tyson, or as much as I believe in Bryce Young, I'm not doubting Paul Tyson at all. I just think the way the situation is playing out right now, I would project Bryce.
Hey, great call. Anything else?
No, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for hanging on. We appreciate it. All right, let's go back to the phone lines again and appreciate all you guys that are with us tonight. 205-850-0883. Who's this? Where are you calling from? And thank you for holding on so long tonight. What's up?
Hey, this is Michael from Pensacola, and I'm a longtime listener, first-time caller.
There you go. Yes.
First one. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. So I wanted to make it short and sweet. I just have a quick question for you guys. I haven't heard anything all year about Christian Story, and I'm just wondering what's the inside scoop on him? Like, what position is he looking to play? And is there any information at all that you guys can give on Christian Story?
Yeah, so I think Christian Story's been, projected. He's probably gonna play safety. It's just and the reason why you haven't heard about him is because Alabama's got a pretty deep secondary, and there wasn't those opportunities to really break kids in. You didn't have the games against the Georgia Southern or Georgia State to kind of like break New Mexico State to kind of break those kids in and to really see him. So he's a talented guy. I mean, look, he's Mr. Football in Alabama. Even he probably could sling it at the quarterback position too. But I think his positions on defense, I think you'll probably get to see him a little bit more, at least on special teams, you would think, this year. So he's a talented kid. They've got a lot of depth in that secondary, and they just brought in a ton of depth in that secondary. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But just because one of these kids, just because you don't hear about him as a freshman year, not everyone can. Alabama does play a lot of freshmen, but not everyone can play their freshman year. So still plenty of time for him. It's not like a real urgency on his. He's got plenty of time on his clock left to make a difference at Alabama. So I'd keep an eye on him. He's a really talented kid, and he's also the son of a football coach. So he's going to be a kid that's going to be really knowledgeable. Those kids tend to develop well. So I just think he's a guy to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, he's just such a talented kid coming out of high school, and he is very versatile. Like you said, he can play quarterback or on defense, and there's a lot that he can do. So I think you're right. I think over the next few years, we'll hear his name a lot more, and eventually he'll work his way into the starting role. So that's all I want to know about it. I appreciate you guys very much, and I hope you all have a great day.
Hey, thanks
for the call.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for holding on and hanging out with us tonight. Let's pick up another call here, and again, we appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us tonight. 205-850-0883 if you want to call in and talk to Tony Tsoukalis or myself and ask a question, get into this Alabama conversation. Basketball, football, you want to talk about Gus signing, what's going on anywhere in the SEC, we'll talk about it tonight. Who's this and where you come from?
Hey, it's Dimitri from North Carolina.
Hey, what's up, Dimitri? How you doing?
Just trying to keep my head above water. Yeah, I want to call in to reiterate on this defense. I've been a fan of Pete Golden for a while, and I wanted to remind folks to please calm down about the defense, because every year we be in the same predicament. Oh, what are we going to do? And every year we always in position to win the national championship. And we finally, Kirby Smart stealing the board and telling players what Alabama thought of us, and departure of Jeremy Pruitt. We took a major hit as far as defense. Taj Zupoy really wasn't no defensive coordinator. He was just a good recruiter. And we finally getting it back on track. We finally getting a defensive line that's got good rotation to keep fresh defensive linemen in. We built and we got an awesome secondary. The linebacker core. If Henry To'oTo'o will come in, that'll be a plus for us. We finally got depth there on the inside and outside. The defense is starting to get back to, it's starting to get back to that plethora of players that you can just fit in and in different situations. And, and I'm going to say this and go as far as the quarterback from Tennessee, Ty, if he come, he come, he don't, he don't. Hey, if you go to Clemson, we subject to meet him, and he just has to take a loss like the rest of them.
Hey, I agree. And look,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you. So you got any questions that you want to ask, or just basically talking about how good Pete Golding's been?
Why is it? You mentioned on it earlier. Why is it every time that somebody score a lot of points on Alabama, fire Pete Golding, but after the second half of the Georgia game, you didn't hear Pete Golden name no more to the Florida game.
Yeah,
he's definitely. I will say this about Pete Golding. I don't know if you've gotten to see some of the press conferences we've posted. We don't get to talk to him a lot, but whenever we get to talk to Pete Golding, he's a football mind. He can talk some X's and O's, and you can really tell he knows his stuff when it comes to defense. So this is not some, bumbling idiot that doesn't know what he's doing back there. This guy understands defense. He's a great defensive coach, and, whether or not he's, able to get the players to I think his thing is just getting the players to soak in and be able to replicate what he knows. Because knowledge wise, I think he's a great X's and O coach. And so, he's a smart guy. It's really easy to see when you talk with him. It's really easy to see what Nick Saban sees in him. And I think you're right too. I don't think he got any of the credit when he did a good job, and then he got all of the credit when Alabama struggled. A lot of times Alabama struggled against some of the nation's best offenses. So
that's what Florida was going to put up that many points on anybody in the country in the SEC championship game. They might well forget it. They will score. Florida can put up that many points on anybody. It's just this time around, Alabama have a good offense that can outscore any other good offense. So you have to win games like that sometime. And plus, on top of that, poll Coach Pete Golden, he just never did get none of the credit And I mean, folks just don't. I don't know. I try to keep open mind. We took a lot of major hit with Kirk Smart and German Pruitt when they departed. As far as Henry Toto, he left on. Coach Pruitt was one of his primary recruiters. So, ain't no telling what he was told. Yeah, he started as a freshman. But I'm just glad. We have some coaching continuity. That's a plus, and I'm glad that Coach Pete Golden decided to stay. And that's all I got to say. Roll Tide.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Right, well,
Great
calling in.
Roll Tide, my friend. Yeah, I love talking to him. Before we get to the next call, we love the super chats. We stop what we're doing. What is that? I break for yard sales. You remember that bumper sticker? we break for super chats, right? And here's a super chat here. I posted in the chats, but the question was your thoughts on what JTT will do after the NCAA extended the dead period. What do you think?
Man, I'm probably not the person. The person to ask for this question is Andrew Bone. I really don't have a feel for this one, but I know Alabama has a chance. I know he's somebody that Andrew's been talking about. So, man, that would be just another great player in this year's class, which would be just ridiculous. I mean, like, can you imagine adding him and then also adding Henry Tuatoa? Like, I know Henry Tuatoa wouldn't be in this year's class, but my God, that this could be one of we're already talking about this being the best class ever if they were able to add him, boy. But like I don't necessarily have a feel of how that's gonna play out. I know Alabama definitely has a chance though.
Yeah, and what I understand right now is that there's a good chance that he's coming to Bama. That's what I was told. I don't know the guy. I didn't talk to him. I just heard that. So from a pretty good source. So, I'm curious, and anything can change, but he wants to come to campus, right? He wants to see it in person and kind of do that experience. And, hopefully that'll be something that happens. But, I mean, you can't add enough of these star defensive players because, as we've seen, stopping other teams is really difficult these days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, like, I'm sure Pete Golding, you're just talking about. I mean, he wants all the help he can get. So getting a 5-star, big, game changer like JTT is that would certainly help, if not this year, but for years to come. So, yeah, the Alabama would be definitely excited to add him in.
Let's go back to the phone lines again as you hang out with us on a Wednesday night. 205 number. So we know that's Central Alabama. Who's this and where you calling from?
This is Kevin from Birmingham.
What's up, Kevin?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out and watching you guys, and wanted to call in and ask a question about basketball recruiting.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're going to get Charles Bediako?
Like I said, I'm not the best with these recruiting questions. Like, he's another guy that Alabama's like in talks with, or like not in talks with, but like in contention for. I just like I said, I don't have a great feel of the recruiting side, but look, when you look at the job Nate Oates is doing, he's certainly attracting these high profile players. So I think Alabama's got at least a shot on him as well.
Pipeline from Canada also.
Yeah, he'll have that connection. I mean, look at that pipeline in Canada with Joshua Primo, Keon Ambrose Hilton. So look, those kids are going to see guys like Josh Primo doing so well, and that's got to help. It's got to. If Josh can come down here and play the way he has and start as a freshman, I think that's definitely a feather in Alabama's cap.
Well, I can tell you one thing. It doesn't matter right now about Coleman being a dump because we're winning. So,
yeah, I do think, though, that's going to matter in terms of, look, when you look at Nate Oates, there's going to be some big-time programs calling. And if Alabama's not willing to invest money in not only him, but in the program, and that means the venue as well, I think it's going to be a tough sell to keep what I feel like is one of the best coaches in college basketball at the moment in Tuscaloosa if you're not going to invest in his team. So that's what Alabama does with Nick Saban. They gave him what he needed to build a program. I think if you're serious about basketball, you got to treat it the same way.
Well, maybe after COVID, they can get things rolling again.
Yeah, well, hopefully, because I would like to see Coleman get a little bit of a facelift. I think it's overdue. So we saw Sewell Thomas. Sewell Thomas was a dump in terms of SEC standards, and it looks pretty nice now. So it's possible, right? Greg Burns says it's in the budget. So it's a matter of if or when, not if. But I think a lot of Alabama basketball fans will believe that when they start seeing the cranes and the bulldozers start moving in.
I've been a fan since '86, and I've been to 100 games there, and I'm just used to it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the way, unfortunately, that a lot of Alabama basketball fans are at the moment. They just kind of accepted it. But like I said, I think if you're wanting to build this program the way that Nate Oates wants to, and you want to be a perennial contender, which, look, Nate Oates has proven that Alabama can be that, but you've got to invest in the program. You've really got to take it seriously. And there's no reason, if Alabama wants to invest and if they want to be a basketball school, that if they can keep Nate Oates around, I think they can do that.
Yeah, hopefully they will.
Yep. I think you're right, though. You go out there and play. I think that they're going to dynamite that place and build a new building. We've had some great memories there, but to be able to get these 5-star and big-time 4-star recruits, they've got to have the facility, which really is crazy to see, like kind of what Avery Johnson did.
Everything will take too long.
Yeah, and that's what that's kind of what the game plan has been. Maybe we just redo the one that they have, but however it happens, it would be nice to when I've been to I've been to every venue in the SEC, and that one's one of the worst ones. So I wouldn't say the worst, but it's there pretty close. And it would just be, when I don't want them to take the feel of it out, but I think if we got a brand new building or they absolutely gutted that place and built it back to today's standards with the luxury box and, maybe make the seats higher instead of further back. So you're right on top of the action, like at Tennessee. Maybe it's just a beautiful arena like Kentucky or Arkansas plays at.
Get rid of the corners.
Yeah, right. Get rid of the corners. Make it. I got to tell you, one of the best places that you can watch basketball is at Florida, and it's an old building. I mean, there's nothing nice about it. I mean, you don't walk in and go, man, this place is just beautiful. But when people are in there and it's time for basketball, I love it. The fans are right on top of the court. That it gets really loud, and for an old facility, it's got a lot of character. It's kind of like going not as good as Duke, which I've been there too, but along those same lines.
Right.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Take care, man.
Hey, roll Tide. Well, great basketball call. Let's go back to the phone lines again, and we appreciate all of you that hang out with us tonight. He's Tony Tsoukalas, and I'm Mick Gillespie. All right, who's this, and where are you calling from?
This is Tobias calling from Fresno.
Tobias, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, champion?
Good, man. How you been?
Oh, man, doing great. Just listening to the show. Work sometimes has me missing these shows, but I always catch the replay of it, and I'll super chat as soon as I get off. But I was listening to you all's discussion about Tennessee. And I think you guys might have mentioned it, but Tennessee has a toxic fan base, man. And so, when you have a toxic fan base now, it's different than when I was going to school and being recruited. I played Division I football. I won't name the school. Great school, love my school. I recruit for them now. But you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have all of that when I was getting recruited. So you only knew what they showed you. Right. So me walking around campus and I fell in love with my school because there was nothing there that could distract me from that. Tennessee fan base. And I don't mean this as a slight to anyone, but I felt very bad for them a few years back, what they did to that coach, running him off like that and just making a bad environment. Right. So, when recruits are coming in, and Alabama has to remember this too. A part of what the allure, me and my wife, we went down and we go back each year to Alabama to a game or something like that. The allure of it is everything. it's not just Nick Saban, and that's a big win, right? To have Nick Saban, the most winning coach and all that. But it's what you feel when you come on campus, man. It's what you feel when you walk down the street. It's the way people look at you. So I think fans need to realize, like, you're a part of that recruiting process, and when you get on and start talking about a kid, they're thinking, man, this is where I want to go. And so to the Henry Toll kid, my next thought was, he can come to Alabama. I think he's great. I watched his tape. He's good. He is good. So no doubt about it. We're getting somebody there. But I forget who said it. One of you were just pointing out that we have linebackers in the queue that are killers. They're stone cold killers, and they just didn't get on the field this year because of Dylan Moses, who was old. I know it shouldn't be about Owing, but for somebody who was injured and, meant so much to the program, he played the whole year injured. But you saw what happened when those young guys got in. They're stone cold killers. So for anybody who's thinking there's going to be a letdown, those kids in the queue have been in the program for 2 years. These are not freshmen. They know the system, and that system is not going to change. And then to the point about Golden, I agree with you. Saban likes him for a reason. You know why? He's smart. The dude knows X's and O's. I was a little Debbie down on him at that first year, but then when I looked at what he was working with, you had all of those injuries. You had 2 freshman middle linebacker, and even in that, they only lost 2 games. So anyway, those were some of my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think about it, those 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on the linebackers. Like I said, don't count out a guy like Jalen Moody or Shane Lee, and especially a guy like Jalen Moody. I think he really earned it. I mean, this guy that came in on special teams, fought his way up from just being a special teams hero, and now he's probably, I think we had him projected as our projected starter in our defensive depth chart. So, like I said, you look at a kid like that, and you're gonna have to beat out a kid like that. You're a kid that's really earned it, and Alabama's definitely gonna give everyone a chance, including the ones that have been with the program, that know the program, and that have earned that opportunity. So I think Henry Toto is a talent, but I think he's gonna have to really work for it if he comes to Alabama. And the other thing you brought up too was the culture. I think winning cures everything. I think, you can say the culture is bad at Tennessee, but if you switch places and Alabama starts losing like that, I think the fan culture is going to be bad at Alabama if they start losing, games and having to replace coaches like that. So just the way you get out of that from a Tennessee standpoint is you just win and you start building on those wins. I think that winning just is the cure-all, and I think that's the only way they improve is they got to put the string together, baby steps, and just kind of build off of it.
But you got to be realistic, though. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's my point, is that they're not being realistic. My university, I hate it for us because we're not vested in the football. We're not vested in the sports like that. We will always win 8 games or so, but it's never going to be that because our culture is very laissez-faire. It's not that. When you go to a Tennessee, or an Alabama, Georgia, something like that, that culture has to be on point because everyone else is vested into football. Mm-hmm. And so, when Butch Jones, people laughed at him talking about brick by brick, but that's what he was talking about, though. And I know he had a lot of cliches and stuff, but that's essentially what needs to happen. And Bryce Young, my last point, I know you guys got to go, but with Bryce Young, I know people are saying, Paul Tyson, I think he's going to be good. I hope so, too. However, we haven't seen it. So I'm wondering what people are talking about when they say, I think he will be good. Well, based on what? I think Bryce Young this year, not just trying to keep him in the fold by having him be second string, but I believe he has foot talent and arm talent. I watched the kid in Mater Dei, went down to a game when he was playing out here. I'm in California.
To even come up with that BS, but yeah. So
all right,
congratulations, man. You're a cool dude.
Yeah, loser. All right. Hey, Tobias, awesome hearing from you, man. And thanks for the super chat. Says, looking forward to our D having crazy upswing. He says this deal shut people down. Our wide receivers need to step up to the challenge and be like J-Dub. Smitty, fourth quarter program will be our friend this year. Roll Tide. Thanks, Tobias. And you're our friend too, man. Awesome calls today. And I do apologize to anyone that had to sit there and listen to, that person that called in and pranked us. But hey, look, it's part of the business. We tried to get him off as quickly as we could. Shame on that guy. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we get off here, Tony?
No, thanks for everyone that called in. I really appreciated talking with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Andrew Bone will be on tomorrow. You can check this out with a lot of our other shows. This will be on our podcast, Apple and Spotify. Also, you rewatch it on YouTube. And we appreciate everyone that hung out with us tonight. Friday, it'll be we got the show with Trey. That one comes on at 10 in the morning. Tomorrow, we'll be back on at 6 o'clock at night. And we do appreciate everyone for hanging out. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and listening. Bama Insider, YouTube, and BamaInsider.com. I'm Mick Gillespie. Roll Tide, everybody.